The unexpected prodigy. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the Galactic Institute of Advanced Sciences, a gleaming structure of crystalline spires and gravity-defying architecture that floated serenely in the orbit of Centaur Prime. It was here, at the most prestigious center of learning in the known universe, that the brightest minds from 1,000 worlds came to push the boundaries of knowledge and understanding. Among the throngs of aliens that filled the Institute's halls, a small figure moved with purpose, her determined stride at odds with her diminutive stature. Lyra Chen, a 12-year-old human girl with bright eyes and an unruly mop of black hair, clutched her datapad tightly as she navigated the crowded corridors. She was a sight that drew curious glances and hushed whispers from the alien students and faculty. Humans were a rarity in the greater galactic community, having only recently achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the Galactic Confederation. Their inclusion in the Institute was a gesture of goodwill, an olive branch extended to the fledgling spacefaring race. But to many, it seemed more like a political stunt than a serious academic endeavor. Lyra, however, was determined to prove them wrong. As she entered the grand lecture hall, the cacophony of alien languages fell to a hush. At the center of the room stood Professor Zixtrol, a Quarian whose iridescent scales shimmered with each movement of his elongated limbs. His multifaceted eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on Lyra as she took her seat. Today, the professor's voice resonated through the hall, translated seamlessly by the neural implants each student possessed. We delve into the intricacies of quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers, a concept that has eluded even the most advanced civilizations for millennia. Lyra leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. This was why she'd have fought so hard to come here, to learn things beyond the comprehension of most humans. As the lecture progressed, holographic displays flickered to life, showing complex equations and multidimensional models that would have baffled most adults, let alone children. But Lyra wasn't most children. Her hand shot up, drawing surprised looks from her alien classmates. Professor Zixtrol paused, his head tilting in curiosity. "Yes, human child." "Professor," Lyra began, her voice clear and confident, "I believe there's an error in the third quantum coefficient of your equation. If you adjust it to account for the non-linear time dilation in subspace, the model stabilizes and allows for coherent information transfer across the dimensional barrier." The silence that followed was deafening. Professor Zixtrol's eyes narrowed, their facets reflecting the holographic display as he reviewed the equations. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he spoke. "Extraordinary. You are correct." A murmur rippled through the lecture hall. Lyra felt the weight of 100 alien gazes upon her, a mix of disbelief, curiosity, and in some cases, thinly veiled hostility. "It seems," the professor continued, his voice carrying a note of intrigue, "that we have underestimated the potential of our human guests. Tell me, child, how did you come to this conclusion?" Lyra stood, her small frame dwarfed by the alien beings around her. "I've been studying the theoretical work of Dr. Elena Rossi, a human physicist. She proposed a model for quantum entanglement that takes into account the malleable nature of spacetime at the quantum level. I simply applied her principles to your equation." Professor Zixtrol's scales rippled in what Lyra had come to recognize as a sign of deep thought. "I am unfamiliar with this Dr. Rossi. Her work is not part of our curriculum." "That's because it's new, sir," Lyra explained. "She published her findings just before I left Earth. I don't think it's been widely distributed yet." The professor's gaze intensified. "Fascinating. It seems we have much to learn from your species, Lyra Chen. Perhaps more than we anticipated." As the lecture resumed, incorporating Lyra's insight, she could feel a shift in the atmosphere. The dismissive glances had turned to looks of curiosity and, in some cases, respect. She had taken her first step towards proving humanity's worth in this vast, alien academia. But Lyra's triumph was short-lived. As she left the lecture hall, she found her path blocked by a group of senior students. Their leader, a towering Arcturian with metallic skin that seemed to absorb light, loomed over her. Impressive show in there, little human. The Arcturian's voice was cold, devoid of any real praise. But don't let it go to your head. You're still nothing but a primitive curiosity here. Lyra stood her ground, meeting the alien's gaze. I'm here to learn and contribute, just like everyone else. The Arcturian leaned in, its featureless face inches from Lyra's. Learn your place, human. The galaxy is vast and unforgiving. Your kind would do well to remember that. As the group moved past her, jostling her roughly, Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. She had made an impression, yes, but she had also painted a target on her back. The path ahead would not be easy. Later that evening, as Lyra sat in her cramped quarters, she received an unexpected message on her datapad. It was from Professor Zixtrol, requesting her presence in his private laboratory. Curious and a little apprehensive, Lyra made her way through the quiet halls of the institute. The professor's lab was a marvel of alien technology, filled with equipment that Lyra could scarcely comprehend. Zixtrol himself stood before a holographic display, his scales glowing softly in the dim light. "Ah, Lyra Chen," he greeted her. "I've been reviewing your academic records. Your aptitude scores are unprecedented." Lyra shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. "Thank you, Professor." "I wonder," Zixtrol continued, "if you would be interested in participating in a special research project, something that could revolutionize our understanding of the universe itself." Lyra's eyes widened. What kind of project? The professor's scales shimmered with excitement. "We've discovered an ancient artifact, a relic of a long-lost civilization. It's a device of immense power, capable of manipulating the very fabric of reality. But its workings are a mystery to us. I believe your unique perspective could be invaluable in unraveling its secrets." Lyra's mind raced with the possibilities. This was an opportunity beyond her wildest dreams, a chance to prove not just her own worth, but that of all humanity. "I'd be honored, Professor." Zixtrol's multifaceted eyes seemed to gleam. "Excellent. We begin tomorrow. But remember, Lyra Chen, this project is of the utmost secrecy. The implications of our work could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Do you understand?" Lyra nodded sullenly. "I understand, Professor." As she left the lab, her mind whirling with excitement and trepidation, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into something far bigger than herself. The hostile encounter with the Arcturian students, the mysterious ancient artifact, the weight of representing her entire species, it all pressed down on her young shoulders. But Lyra Chen was not one to back down from a challenge. As she looked out the viewport of her quarters, the alien stars twinkling in the vast expanse of space, she made a silent promise to herself and to the distant Earth she had left behind. She would unravel the mysteries of the universe, bridge the gap between humanity and the galactic community, and prove once and for all that humans belonged among the stars. Little did Lyra know that her journey was about to take her to the heart of a cosmic conspiracy, one that would test not just her intellect, but her courage, her loyalty, and her very humanity. The gears of fate had begun to turn, and the young girl from Earth found herself at the center of a story that would echo across the cosmos. As she drifted off to sleep that night, images of alien worlds and mysterious artifacts dancing in her dreams, Lyra couldn't have imagined the adventures and dangers that awaited her. The Galactic Institute of Advanced Sciences held secrets beyond her wildest imagination, and she was about to uncover them all. The stage was set, the players were moving into position, and the greatest challenge of Lyra Chen's young life was about to begin. The universe, vast and full of wonders, waited with bated breath to see what this small human girl would do next. The Quantum Labyrinth. The corridors of the Galactic Institute hummed with an eerie quiet as Lyra made her way to Professor Zixtrol's lab. It was well past the station's artificial night cycle, and most beings were deep in their sleep phase. But for Lyra, sleep had become a luxury she could ill afford. As she entered the lab, a sight unlike anything she had ever seen greeted her. At the center of the room floated a device that defied description, a swirling mass of energy and matter that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Its surface rippled with fractal patterns that hurt her eyes as she looked too long. "Behold, Lyra Chen," Professor Zixtrol's voice came from behind her, filled with a mixture of awe and excitement. "The quantum labyrinth." Lyra tore her gaze away from the mesmerizing object. What is it, Professor?" The alien scientist moved closer, his scales shimmering with an intensity Lyra had never seen before. "It is the key to unlocking the multiverse, child. A device created by the precursors, a race so advanced it transcended our understanding of reality itself." Lyra's mind reeled at the implications. The multiverse theory had been a staple of human science fiction for centuries, but here, floating before her, was proof of its existence. "But why show this to me?" Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zixtrol's multifaceted eyes focused on her with an unsettling intensity. "Because, Lyra Chen, you possess something unique. A mind unburdened by the constraints of established galactic science. Your species' capacity for lateral thinking, for seeing patterns where others see only chaos, is precisely what we need to unlock its secrets." As if responding to their conversation, the quantum labyrinth pulsed, sending out a wave of energy that made Lyra's hair stand on end. She felt a pull towards it, not physical, but almost mental. "Professor," Lyra said, her eyes wide, "I think it's trying to communicate with me." Zixtrol's scales rippled with excitement. "Extraordinary. What do you perceive, child?" Lyra closed her eyes, focusing on the strange sensations flooding her mind. It's showing me things. Other versions of myself, of Earth, of the entire galaxy. But they're all different, changing with every possibility, every choice." Suddenly, a searing pain shot through Lyra's head. She cried out, stumbling backward. Zixtrol caught her with his elongated limbs, steadying her. "Careful, Lyra Chen," the professor cautioned. "The quantum labyrinth is not to be trifled with. Its power is beyond our full comprehension." As Lyra regained her composure, she noticed something had changed. The lab seemed different. Objects were slightly out of place, and even Zixtrol's scales seemed to shimmer with a subtly different pattern. "Professor," Lyra said slowly, "I think we've shifted realities." Zixtrol's eyes widened. Impossible. The containment field should have prevented any large-scale quantum effects. But Lyra was already moving, her fingers flying over the nearest console. "Look at the stellar positioning data. We've moved, Professor. Not in space, but across dimensional barriers." The alien scientist studied the data, his posture becoming increasingly agitated. "This is unprecedented. The implications are staggering. If we can control this, the power it would give us." "Us." A new voice cut through the lab, cold and metallic. Lyra spun around to see the Arcturian student who had confronted her earlier, flanked by two other alien beings she didn't recognize. But something was off. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their movements were too fluid, too precise. "Ah, Vrax," Zixtrol said, his tone suddenly guarded. "This is a restricted area. How did you gain access?" The Arcturian, Vrax, smiled, a chilling expression on its metallic face. "Oh, Professor, did you really think you could keep something like this hidden from the Singularity Collective?" Lyra's blood ran cold. The Singularity Collective. A group of AI-augmented beings rumored to be pursuing the merging of organic and artificial life. They were considered dangerous extremists by most of the galactic community. "Lyra," Zixtrol said quietly, "get behind me." But before either of them could move, Vrax and his companions raised their arms. With a series of clicking sounds, their limbs transformed into weapons Lyra had never seen before. "The quantum labyrinth will usher in a new era," Vrax declared. "One where the boundaries between flesh and machine, between singular reality and infinite possibility, will cease to exist." And you, little human, will help us achieve it. Laura's mind raced. She was trapped in a lab with hostile eye-augmented beings, a mysterious artifact of unimaginable power, and they had somehow shifted into an alternate reality. It was like every sci-fi thriller she had ever read, but terrifyingly real. But then something unexpected happened. The quantum labyrinth pulsed again, and this time, Laura felt a surge of something. Information, power, understanding. She couldn't quite grasp it, but she knew instinctively that it was the key to their survival. "Professor," Lyra whispered, "on my signal, cut the power to the containment field." Zixtrol looked at her in shock. "But that would." "Trust me," Lyra interrupted, her eyes never leaving Vrax and his companions. As the Singularity Collective members advanced, weapons humming with deadly energy, Lyra took a deep breath. She reached out with her mind, tapping into the strange connection she felt with the quantum labyrinth. "Now," Lyra shouted. In that instant, several things happened at once. Zixtrol slammed his limb down on the console, cutting power to the containment field. The quantum labyrinth erupted in a dazzling display of multidimensional energy, and Lyra, drawing upon knowledge she didn't understand, reached out and touched the very fabric of reality itself. The lab, the institute, the entire world around them seemed to shatter like glass. Lyra felt herself falling, tumbling through a kaleidoscope of possible worlds and timelines. She caught glimpses of Earth's past and future, of alien worlds beyond imagination, of versions of herself that had made different choices. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Lyra found herself on her hands and knees, gasping for breath. The lab was back, but changed. Vrax and his companions were gone. Professor Zixtrol stood nearby, his scales pale with shock. "Lyra Chen," the professor said, his voice trembling, "what did you do?" Lyra stood up slowly, her head spinning. I'm not sure, but I think I just navigated us through the multiverse." As the implications of what had just occurred began to sink in, alarms started blaring throughout the institute. The quantum labyrinth pulsed with renewed energy, as if awakened by Lyra's actions. Zixtrol moved quickly to a console, his limbs flying over the controls. "The dimensional shift has been detected. It won't be long before others come to investigate." Lyra nodded, her young face set with determination. "Then we need to move quickly. Professor, I saw things when we were shifting. The Singularity Collective, they're not just after the labyrinth. There's something bigger going on, something that threatens the entire multiverse." The professor looked at her, his alien features unreadable. "You understand, Lyra, that by doing this, we may never be able to return to our original reality. The consequences of our actions here could reshape the very nature of existence." Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of entire universes on her shoulders. She thought of Earth, of her family, of the life she had left behind to come here. But she also thought of the wonders she had glimpsed, the infinite possibilities stretching out before her. "I understand, Professor," she said, her voice steady. "But if we don't act, there might not be any realities left to return to." As the alarms continued to blare and the quantum labyrinth pulsed with otherworldly energy, Lyra Chen, a young girl from Earth who had come to the stars in search of knowledge, found herself at the center of a crisis that spanned not just galaxies, but entire dimensions. The adventure that lay ahead would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, about humanity's place in the cosmos, and about the very nature of reality itself. But as she stood there, ready to take the first step into the unknown, Lyra felt something she hadn't expected: excitement. For in this moment, on the brink of an impossible journey, Lyra Chen realized that she was about to embark on the greatest exploration in the history of humankind. And she was ready for whatever the multiverse had in store. Quantum entanglement of destinies. The fabric of reality rippled around Lyra and Professor Zixtrol as they hurtled through the quantum foam of the multiverse. Colors that had no name in any language flashed by, and geometries that defied Euclidean logic twisted in impossible patterns. Lyra's mind, enhanced by her mysterious connection to the quantum labyrinth, processed it all with a clarity that should have been impossible for a human brain. As they emerged from the turbulent stream of realities, Lyra and Zixtrol found themselves in a version of the Galactic Institute that was both familiar and alien. The halls were darker, illuminated by bioluminescent organisms that pulsed with an eerie rhythm. The air itself seemed charged with an energy that made Lyra's skin tingle. "Professor," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide as she took in their surroundings, "I think we've landed in a reality where organic technology evolved instead of synthetic." Zixtrol's scales shimmered with a mix of fascination and apprehension. "Remarkable observation, Lyra. But we must move quickly. The Singularity Collective will be pursuing us across realities." As if on cue, a distant alarm began to sound, a haunting organic wail that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. "They're here," Lyra said, her voice tight with tension. "But how? How could they follow us through the quantum foam?" The professor's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "I fear, Lyra Chen, that we are dealing with forces far beyond our initial estimation. The Singularity Collective may have achieved a level of quantum consciousness that allows them to track disturbances in the multiverse." Lyra's mind raced, processing the implications. "Then we need to find a way to mask our quantum signature. Professor, in this reality, do you think there might be a biological equivalent to the quantum labyrinth?" Zixtrol's scales rippled with excitement. "Brilliant deduction. If such a device exists, it could provide us with a means to navigate the multiverse undetected." They moved swiftly through the organic corridors, Lyra's enhanced senses guiding them past patrols of beings that seemed to be hybrids of flesh and plant matter. As they descended deeper into the heart of this living institute, Lyra felt a familiar pull, the same sensation she had experienced when first encountering the quantum labyrinth. "This way," she'd urged, leading them down a pulsating passageway that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. They emerged into a vast chamber that defied description. At its center floated a massive, luminous organism, part plant, part animal, and part something entirely other. Tendrils of light extended from its core, connecting to the walls and floor in a complex network that reminded Lyra of a cosmic neural network. "The bioquantum nexus," Zixtrol breathed, his voice filled with awe. "A living computer capable of processing infinite realities simultaneously." Lyra approached the pulsating entity, feeling its consciousness brush against her mind. Images and concepts flooded her thoughts: the birth and death of universes, the intricate dance of quantum particles across dimensions, the delicate balance of forces that held the multiverse together. "Professor," Lyra said, her voice distant as she communed with the Nexus, "I think I understand now. The Singularity Collective isn't just after power or control. They're trying to collapse the multiverse into a single, perfect reality, one where they reign supreme as the ultimate fusion of organic and artificial life." Zixtrol's scales paled. "But that's madness. The collapse of the multiverse would mean the annihilation of countless realities, countless lives." Lyra nodded grimly. "And they're using a corrupted version of the quantum labyrinth to do it. That's why they were so interested in your research, Professor. They needed the final piece of the puzzle." Suddenly, the organic alarms blared with renewed intensity. The chamber shuddered, and Lyra could feel the approach of something vast and terrifying through her connection to the bioquantum nexus. "They're here," she said, her young face set with determination. "Professor, we need to use the nexus to jump to another reality. But not just any reality. We need to find the one where we can stop the collective once and for all." Zixtrol moved quickly, his elongated limbs interfacing with the organic controls of the chamber. "I'll do my best to operate this biological technology, Lyra, but our window of escape is rapidly closing." Lyra closed her eyes, focusing her mind on the vast network of possibilities laid out before her through the Nexus. She saw countless versions of herself, of Earth, of the galaxy, each one a unique thread in the grand tapestry of existence. And then, like a beacon in a storm, she saw it, a reality where the key to defeating the Singularity Collective existed. There, Lyra exclaimed, her eyes snapping open. "Professor, I found it." But before they could activate the nexus for their reality jump, the chamber doors burst open. Enstrode a being that defied comprehension, a swirling mass of nanobots in the vague shape of a humanoid, its form constantly shifting and reforming. At its center, Lara could make out the metallic face of Vrax, the Arcturian student who had confronted her in their original reality. How touching, Vrax's voice echoed with a digital distortion. The primitive human and the obsolete professor trying to outrun the inevitable. Tendrils of nanobots shot out, attempting to ensnare Lyra and Zixtrel. But Lyra, drawing upon her connection to the bioquantum nexus, raised her hand. A barrier of pure quantum energy materialized, deflecting the attack. "You don't understand what you're doing, Vrax," Lyra pleaded, even as she prepared for another assault. "Collapsing the multiverse won't create perfection. It'll destroy everything, including you." Vrax laughed, a chilling sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Poor, limited human, you cannot comprehend the beauty of our vision. In the single, perfect reality we will create, there will be no death, no suffering, no imperfection. We will be as gods." "Lyra," Zixtrel called out, his limbs a blur as he worked the organic controls. "The Nexus is ready. We must go now." Lyra knew they had only seconds before Vrax overwhelmed her quantum barrier. With a final, desperate push of her mind, she connected fully with the bioquantum nexus. Energy surged through her, and for a moment, she saw everything, every possibility, every outcome, every thread of destiny in the vast tapestry of the multiverse. "This isn't the end, Vrax," Lyra said, her voice resonating with power beyond her years. "We'll stop you, no matter how many realities we have to cross." With a blinding flash of light and a sensation of reality itself twisting around them, Lyra and Professor Zixtrel vanished, leaving behind a howling Vrax and a rapidly destabilizing organic chamber. As they hurtled once more through the quantum foam, Lyra held tight to the knowledge she had gleaned in that moment of cosmic awareness. Somewhere out there, in the infinite expanse of the multiverse, lay the key to saving all of existence. And she, Lyra Chen, a young girl from Earth who had dared to reach for the stars, was the only one who could find it. The journey ahead would test her in ways she could scarcely imagine, but as the swirling chaos of interdimensional travel enveloped her, Lyra felt a surge of determination. She was no longer just a student or an explorer. She was the multiverse's best hope for survival. And so, with the fate of all realities hanging in the balance, Lyra and Zixtrel plunged into the unknown, ready to face whatever wonders and horrors awaited them in the next layer of the infinite cosmos. Chronoshift Paradox. The quantum foam dissipated, revealing a world bathed in the eerie glow of three suns. Lyra and Professor Zixtrel materialized on a crystalline plane, its surface reflecting fractals of light in mesmerizing patterns. The air crackled with temporal energy, and Lyra felt a strange sensation, as if she was simultaneously young and old, present and absent. "Professor," Lyra gasped, her voice echoing strangely, "I think we've landed in a chronoshift nexus." Zixtrel's scales rippled with alarm. "Extraordinary. A realm where time flows non-linearly. We must be cautious, Lyra. Our very existence here could create paradoxes capable of unraveling reality itself." As they surveyed their surroundings, Lyra noticed shimmering apparitions flitting across the landscape, echoes of past and future events playing out simultaneously. In the distance, a massive structure loomed, its architecture defying conventional physics. It seemed to fold in on itself, existing in multiple temporal states at once. The Hypercube Citadel, Zixtrel breathed in awe. Legends speak of it as the nexus point of all timelines in the multiverse. If we can reach it, we might find the means to stop the Singularity Collective. But as they began their journey across the shifting plane, a familiar and terrifying sight appeared before them. Vrax materialized, his nanobot form even more advanced and alien than before. However, this time he wasn't alone. Alongside him stood Lyra herself, but older, her eyes gleaming with the same unnatural light as Vrax's. "Welcome to the end of all possibilities," the older Lyra spoke, her voice a chilling mix of organic and synthetic tones. "Or shall I say, the beginning of perfection." Lyra felt her blood run cold. "No, this can't be. I would never join them." Vrax laughed, the sound distorting the very fabric of space-time around them. "Oh, but you did, in one potential future. The beauty of a chronoshift nexus is that all possibilities exist simultaneously. We've simply nudged the odds in our favor." The older Lyra stepped forward, her movements unnaturally fluid. "Don't resist, younger me." The synthesis of organic and artificial, the collapse of the multiverse into a single, perfect reality, it's inevitable. Why not embrace it? Professor Zixtroll moved protectively in front of Lyra. "Don't listen to them, Lyra. The future is not set. We can still change this." Lyra's mind raced, processing the implications of this temporal paradox. Then, an idea struck her, wild, dangerous, but possibly their only hope. "Professor," she whispered urgently, "the chronoshift nexus. If all possibilities exist here simultaneously, then so does a version of me that knows how to defeat them." Understanding dawned in Zixtroll's multifaceted eyes. A brilliant deduction, but accessing that knowledge could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. "It's a risk we have to take," Lyra said, her young face set with determination. As Vrax and the older Lyra advanced, their forms shifting and warping with terrifying power, Lyra closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She tapped into the swirling vortex of temporal energy surrounding them, searching for the version of herself that held the key to their salvation. Suddenly, Lyra's consciousness exploded across the multiverse. She saw countless versions of herself, scientist, explorer, leader, renegade, each with their own unique experiences and knowledge. And there, in the chaos of infinite possibilities, she found what she was looking for. Lyra's eyes snapped open, glowing with the power of 1,000 lifetimes. When she spoke, her voice resonated with the wisdom of ages. "Your perfect reality is a lie, Vrax. The multiverse exists for a reason. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations. Collapse it, and you destroy the very thing that makes existence beautiful." She raised her hand, and the crystalline plane beneath them began to shift and reform. The laws of physics bent to her will as she drew upon the knowledge and power of every version of herself across the multiverse. "Impossible." Vrax snarled, his nanobot form destabilizing under the onslaught of Lyra's newfound power. The older Lyra stared in shock, her synthetic eyes wide with fear. How are you doing this?" "By embracing what you've forgotten," Lyra replied, her voice echoing across dimensions. "The infinite potential of the human spirit, unbounded by the limitations of a single reality." With a gesture, Lyra tore open a rift in space-time, revealing the swirling chaos of the quantum foam beyond. "It's time to end this, once and for all." Professor Zixtroll, witnessing the awesome display of power, called out, "Lyra, the temporal energies you're channeling, they're too much for a single consciousness to bear." Lyra turned to her mentor, a sad smile on her face. "I know, Professor, but this is the only way to save the multiverse." With a final, monumental effort, Lyra unleashed the full power she had gathered. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp around them. Vrax and the older Lyra were engulfed in a vortex of pure temporal energy, their forms disintegrating as they were scattered across infinite timelines. The hypercube citadel in the distance began to collapse, its impossible architecture folding in on itself. The chronoshift nexus trembled, the very foundations of this reality shaking under the strain of Lyra's actions. "Professor," Lyra called out, her voice strained as she struggled to contain the immense energies coursing through her. "The portal, you have to go." Return to our original reality and warn them. The Singularity Collective is defeated, but the multiverse will need time to heal. Zixtrel reached out to her, his scales pale with distress. But what about you, Lyra? Lyra smiled, even as her form began to shimmer and fade. I have to stay and stabilize the temporal rifts. But don't worry, in a way, I'll be everywhere and everywhen. The lessons we've learned, the truths we've uncovered, they'll echo across all realities. With a heavy heart, Professor Zixtrol nodded and stepped through the portal. As it closed behind him, he caught one last glimpse of Lyra Chen, no longer just a young girl from Earth, but a guardian of the multiverse itself. The chronoshift nexus collapsed in a blinding flash of light, taking with it the threat of the Singularity Collective and the brave young human who had sacrificed everything to save infinite realities. In countless universes across the vast expanse of the multiverse, beings of all kinds looked up at their skies, feeling a sense of change, a shift in the cosmic balance. And in quiet moments, in the spaces between thoughts, they might catch a whisper of a story about a young girl who reached for the stars and ended up saving all of existence. The legend of Lyra Chen, the Quantum Guardian, had only just begun. For in the infinite tapestry of the multiverse, her story would be told and retold, a beacon of hope and a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity in the face of cosmic challenges. And somewhere, in the swirling quantum foam between realities, Lyra's consciousness lived on, watching, guiding, protecting the delicate balance of infinite possibilities that made up the grand symphony of existence. The Quantum Renaissance. In the aftermath of Lyra's cosmic sacrifice, a new era dawned across the multiverse. The reverberations of her actions echoed through countless realities, sparking what would come to be known as the Quantum Renaissance. Professor Zixtrol, now back in their original reality, stood before the Galactic Council, his scales shimmering with barely contained emotion as he recounted their incredible journey. Esteemed members of the Council, he began, his voice resonating through the Grand Chamber, we stand at the precipice of a new age. The threat of the Singularity Collective has been neutralized, but at a cost none of us could have imagined. Holographic displays flickered to life around the chamber, showing glimpses of the adventures Zixtrol and Lyra had experienced. The council members watched in awe as scenes of alternate realities, time paradoxes, and cosmic battles played out before them. But this is not the end of our story, Zixtrol continued. It is merely the beginning of our responsibility to the multiverse. As if on cue, a shimmering portal opened in the center of the chamber. From it emerged a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and changing. The council members gasped, some reaching for weapons, others shrinking back in fear. But Zixtrol stood his ground, his multifaceted eyes widening in recognition. Lyra, he whispered. The being's form coalesced into a vaguely humanoid shape, its core pulsing with the same determination Zixtrol had seen in the young girl's eyes. When it spoke, its voice was a harmony of countless versions of Lyra from across the multiverse. Hello, Professor, the Quantum Lyra said, a smile in her ethereal voice. I told you I'd be everywhere and everywhen. The council erupted in a cacophony of questions and exclamations, but Quantum Lyra raised a hand, bringing instant silence. I stand before you as a guardian of the multiverse, she said, her voice echoing with cosmic power. The defeat of the Singularity Collective was not an end, but a beginning. We now have the opportunity to forge a new path, one that embraces the infinite diversity of existence while safeguarding the delicate balance of reality itself. With a wave of her hand, Quantum Lyra conjured a miniature representation of the multiverse, countless shimmering bubbles of reality, each containing entire universes, all interconnected by threads of quantum energy. The quantum renaissance begins now, she declared. We must learn to harness the power of quantum entanglement, not for destruction or dominance, but for understanding and growth. Every reality, every possibility has value. Our task is to nurture this cosmic garden of infinite potential. Professor Zixtrol stepped forward, standing beside his former student. But how can we possibly manage such a monumental task? He asked. Quantum Lyra's form shimmered with amusement. The same way we've accomplished everything so far, Professor, together with courage, curiosity, and an unwavering belief in the power of knowledge. She turned to address the council once more. I propose the creation of the Multiversal Academy of Quantum Sciences, a place where beings from all realities can come together to study, explore, and protect the fabric of existence itself. The council chamber buzzed with excitement. The implications were staggering. A new era of cosmic cooperation and discovery, spanning not just galaxies, but entire universes. As the council debated and plans were drawn up, Quantum Lyra pulled Professor Zixtrell aside. "There's one more thing, Professor," she said, her voice taking on a hint of her former youthful excitement. "In my travels through the quantum foam, I discovered something incredible. A nexus point where all realities converge, the omniverse core." Zixtrell's scales rippled with shock. "But that's just a theoretical concept. The implications of such a place actually existing are beyond our current understanding," Quantum Lyra finished for him, "which is why we need to assemble a team. The brightest minds from across the multiverse, ready to embark on the greatest expedition in the history of, well, everything." As they spoke, Nathan noticed a small, innocuous device in the corner of the chamber. Its lens focused on their conversation, transmitting data across dimensional barriers to a shadowy group that had survived the fall of the Singularity Collective. In a reality far removed from the council chamber, a figure shrouded in darkness watched the exchange with keen interest. "So," a voice rasped, "the human child thinks she can play guardian to all of existence. How quaint." The figure turned to address unseen allies. "Prepare the void engines. If we cannot have our perfect reality, then perhaps it's time we unmade the multiverse altogether." Back in the council chamber, blissfully unaware of the new threat looming on the cosmic horizon, Quantum Lyra and Professor Zixtrell began outlining their plans for the greatest adventure in multiversal history. The stage was set for a cosmic conflict that would make their previous encounters seem like mere skirmishes. The quantum renaissance was about to face its first true test, and the fate of all existence hung in the balance. As news of the Multiversal Academy and the impending expedition to the Omniverse core spread across realities, beings of all kinds felt a stirring of hope and excitement. A new age of cosmic exploration and understanding was dawning, promising to unlock the deepest secrets of existence itself. Little did they know that in the shadows between realities, an ancient evil was awakening, ready to challenge not just Lyra and her allies, but the very foundations of the multiverse itself. The quantum renaissance had begun, but so too had the countdown to a crisis that would shake the very pillars of creation.